Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day, all Bills all the time. And now Matt Bovee and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Well, it is Chiefs week here in Buffalo. It's beautiful right now in Orchard Park. Matt Bovee, Sal Capaccio. We're coming at you on the podcast from the press box of Highmark Stadium. Maybe slight chance of rain this weekend, but it doesn't matter when the Chiefs come to town what the weather is. It's a massive, massive game.
Oh, it's the one that everybody immediately circles on the schedule when it comes out, and it feels like it happens it doesn't feel like it does happen every single year now, so it's become a fun rivalry. Obviously, the Bills usually on the losing end of it when it matters the most, but they've had some regular season success over the years.
And we know the Bills had played in Kansas City for many years in a row, and now it's Kansas City coming to Buffalo, and coming to Buffalo with the Kansas City Chiefs is their sideline reporter, Josh Klingler, who joins us right now on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Josh and I have gotten to know each other quite well over the years because of all the matchups between the Bills and Chiefs. How are you, buddy? Good to talk to you, and thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it almost feels like a division game. Pardon the voice today. I'm going to get the voice back hopefully by Sunday, but it feels like a division team because we're seeing each other all the time. It's definitely become a rivalry, certainly in Kansas City as well.
All right, we're going to get to some Bills news and items, some big news for the Bills when it comes to who's practicing, who's not, injury-related news. We'll do all that in a minute. Let's start with Josh in Kansas City.
Well, I guess, Josh, the first question for me is, it was only about a month ago where I think there were some serious concerns about what this Chiefs team was going to be, and now they just look like a juggernaut again. So when you think about this team and you think about all of the years that you have covered them and been on the sideline, how do they stack up to some of the other teams that they've had? Are they once again, just an absolute dominant force?
Well, it looks like it all of a sudden. You're right. A few weeks ago, it probably wasn't the case. And now everybody's talking about, is this the best roster that Patrick Mahomes has played with? And it might be. Offensively, certainly, I think it is. The depth that they can play with at wide receiver, the talent that they've invested in the draft in wide receiver, Travis Kelce, just when you think he's like, okay, he might be done. He has a game like he had last week. So they've just opened up so many things offensively. Getting Rashee Rice back from his suspension was obviously huge. He's a vastly different receiver than anybody else they have on the roster. Avoiding a major scare with Xavier Worthy in game 1 of the year with the separated shoulder that turned out to be something he's just been able to manage and stay. And then, I think a little bit as well, Andy Reid being more of a gambler now. We've seen a lot of teams around the NFL go for it on fourth down. Chiefs have never really been that team that if it's fourth and short, he's going to send the field goal unit out and kick field goals. And now suddenly, I don't know, Patrick Mahomes has gotten in his ear, but every time they go to fourth down, he's give me the play, give me the play, give me the play. And they've converted 10 fourth downs already this season. So they become very aggressive offensively, rightfully so, I think, with the parts that they have. And then defensively continues to be kind of the unsung heroes. There was a couple seasons there where really the defense kind of carried while the offense was kind of figuring things out. This happened a little bit again this year. They had one down performance so far this year against Jacksonville. But other than that, the last, 10 quarters or so, they have just been in absolute shutdown mode. So they're getting all phases playing well right now. You don't want to be peaking right now, but they're playing pretty good football collectively.
All right, so you brought up fourth downs and going for it, and a lot of times that's short yardage. Goal line, short yardage. That's Kareem Hunt. He might have to take on a bigger role in this game. Report is that Isaiah Pacheco has a sprained knee. He's week to week. Don't expect him then to play against the Buffalo Bills. Now, Brashard Smith is also there, a guy they drafted this year that a lot of people are very high on. Break down the running back situation and really a running game that hasn't put up really big numbers this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a team that runs by being a unit. There's not going to be a singular guy. Now, when you have both Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, it's kind of a 1-2 punch. So without one of those, Brashard Smith probably does take on a little bit of a role. The Pacheco injury is a little bit strange because he didn't act to me on the sidelines when he first came out. They looked at his knee, kind of said, yep, you're good to go. He jumped back up, lobbied to play.
He was excited. He was like, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. Right. We can see that on the broadcast.
The game was out of reach, and you thought, okay, they're just precaution. He went and talked to Coach Reid, who kind of, I think, said, we're going to sit you down. I saw him in the locker room, had kind of a leg sleeve on, and I thought, okay, he doesn't seem like he was down. And then you hear the report that it could be maybe something that was a little more serious. So we'll see as the week goes on. Not practicing today, but we'll see as the week goes on. But Kareem Hunt has kind of found new life in his, second stint in Kansas City. A guy that went out unceremoniously, obviously the first go round, they brought him back, kind of had a bit role last year, but an important one, and brought him back on a 1-year deal this year. I think that they could always stand to upgrade that position, but it feels like kind of an embarrassment of riches. But they do really like Brashard Smith, and he's kind of added things to his plate week by week and kind of put different things in the passing game in. He's run the football a little bit more over the last couple of weeks as well to kind of showcase that. So I think they're going to kind of spoon feed him more and more and get him involved offensively. But again, it's kind of ridiculous when you look around to some other teams. I mean, the seventh receiver has made plays, and what's the third running back going to do this week? So, I mean, there's all kind, you're trying to figure out how deep they can go at tight end at times. So it is a little bit gross when you're talking about some of the offensive pieces they have. It feels like penthouse problems. You're like, what's the third running back going to do today? It shouldn't be a question we should all usually be concerning ourselves with, right?
So when you think about the Chiefs and you think about just how absolutely dynamic the offense has looked for the last month or so, I guess my question is, from a Bills standpoint, what have teams been able to do to slow them down? Because you'll never shut them down, but what sometimes gives them problems, and what would something like be for the Bills to try and have some success?
I think certainly it's still getting pressure on Patrick Mahomes, however you can do it. He's very good at escaping the pocket and using his feet, but at times he'll get a little bit impatient. We'll see what the offensive line situation is this week as well, because they've been playing with two backups along the offensive line this past week, one backup the week before. And so
is Trey Smith practicing today?
Trey Smith is practicing today. And, I had good reports about him last week. I think they just wanted to give him an extra week to see if the back would calm down. He was having some back spasms against the Raiders, kind of took him out of that game as well, precautionary with a massive lead, and then gave him an extra week to recover. So I expect that he'll give it his best go to try to play this week. But it's trying to get heat on Patrick Mahomes so he doesn't have time to go and pick which guy is going to get the hot read at any particular point in time, and, make him beat you with his feet rather than with his arm, because if he gets a bunch of guys out in coverage, he can just kind of pick and choose. And this group seems to be very willing to pick and choose. That, 1 week it could be Juju Smith-Schuster operating in the middle of the field. 1 week it's Rashee Rice. 1 week it's Xavier Worthy down the field. So they seem very content to get the ball to a number of different guys. So it's kind of pick your poison.
And one thing that the Bills have had troubles against Patrick Mahomes is him scrambling, and he's been very good at it. And he actually was the team's leading rusher, as you know, obviously, Josh, but so people listening know, for the Kansas City Chiefs, because like you said, they use so many guys, but that's an area the Bills have been hurt this year a little bit. Something the Bills have to watch out for is Patrick Mahomes scrambling. He hurt the Commanders doing that. All right, let's flip it around to the other side of the ball. Defensively, is there an area where the Chiefs feel like they could have some growth? Maybe the Bills can, have some success if they maybe lean on the running game that's been so dominant this week. What does that look like? Or is it maybe something else in the on the Chiefs side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, where maybe you could look at a part where you could say maybe this is what teams could attack them with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's up front. They're still looking for pieces up front. They're bringing back Mike Pennell probably today. A guy that was with them for a couple of runs. They need some more help along the defensive line, and I think they'll be looking at that towards a trade deadline as well, and to see if there's an ability to upgrade there. They haven't been great in the sack department, but they've been decent enough in the kind of the pressure numbers, I think, to make it feel okay. And certainly in those clutch situations, they seemingly have rushed the quarterback a little bit better. Spying Josh Allen will be a big question mark as well, obviously, with a lot of teams. I mean, Josh has had a really good ability to run against Kansas City, and they know that. So kind of trying to take away the run game, I still think is probably the spot. Can they exploit things up front, especially when they go to rotation, because the Chiefs will rotate eight or so guys up front. And so, can you take advantage of those situations where maybe Chris Jones isn't on the field, or George Karlaftis is out, and you got maybe a backup guy to take advantage of, because they're a little bit thin, I think, along the defensive line right now.
Do you have any specific defense questions? Because I have a couple big picture questions from Josh.
Thinking defensively, Chris Jones, when you say to like they're a little thin up front, I'm thinking, but they do have an all-world player in Chris Jones, right? Yeah. Is he still the Chris Jones that we've come to know?
Yeah, but I mean, he can be bottled up, right? I mean, if you want to spend 2 or 3 guys to contain him, you can kind of take him out of the mix a little bit at times. And at times, he has been accused of kind of saving himself for those big moments. I don't think that's any big secret. So, and then can he get frustrated? Yeah, at times he can. And then, that's incumbent upon George Karlaftis on the other side to get busy. Charles Omenihu has kind of been a little bit up and down. I think they probably expected overall to get a little better numbers from him on the defensive line. So, again, they have an embarrassment of riches for most of their roster, right? So, but I think if there's something that they're looking at probably down the stretch, if they could find somehow, some way to see an improvement either at defensive tackle or defensive end, I think that's probably the spot that they would look for.
All right, I have 3 kind of just big picture questions. So if you have anything else, obviously interject. The first one being is that every time these two teams play, it feels like there's a plan that they're going to end up playing each other again down the road.
Right.
And it always feels like both teams are trying to save certain things. The Chiefs, it felt like, did that much better than the Bills last year, because after the AFC Championship game, the Bills said like they did a bunch of stuff that we were not expecting or prepared for. When you think about these types of games, how much of a factor do you think that is?
Well, I don't think that it's a huge, like, we're going to save stuff necessarily, but they're tweaking week to week, especially on offense. Like defensively, they do what they do. But offensively, they are not afraid to go. I think one of the receivers this week in the locker room told me it was like, I think he called like Andy's big book or something. He goes, he'll just go to that big book and just pull something out. And,
Right.
they may have worked on it in training camp for 10 minutes on a Thursday back in, and he'll just insert that thing back in. So I think it's their ability to be willing to do that they're going to show you things now that they might not be doing later on. And then they're adding things along the way. I think Xavier Worthy was the perfect example last year that they just kind of gave him little things as the season went along. And by the end of the year, he's running stuff that they wouldn't even have thought to throw his way at the beginning of the year.
And then no one saw on film, basically.
Yeah. And Brashard Smith could fall in that same category where they just kind of keep adding pieces along the way. So I think it's back of your mind. You're going to face them twice, certainly, but also the confidence that we can run a whole bunch of stuff and you're just going to go to that beautiful mind of Andy Reid offensively. And he's just not going to be afraid to pull something out of, thin air or, they've been running some wing tee. I mean, there's always like a little wrinkle of some stuff. You're like, how much time are they spending on this? Because it's just like such a simple thing, but the Bills are always in their mind. Like, yes, this is expecting to be the first of 2 matchups. There's no doubt about it.
Is Buffalo still the team that Kansas City, I don't want to say fears, because obviously they don't fear them. They have beaten them in the playoffs. But does it still feel like in Kansas City that the Bills are going to be the team that could potentially keep them from getting back to the Super Bowl? Because, here in Buffalo, it's like the Chiefs, right? It's just about beating the Chiefs. Is that feeling mutual?
I think so. I mean, I think so, certainly this year. I mean, and no offense to Denver. I think we'll see when the 2 teams meet head to head. They haven't played yet, like in the division. They're going to beat the Chargers in round 2. I can almost guarantee that. Like that, or they're mad about that first one. They're going to get it. It's no big deal. Second one will be at home. I'm like, the Colts, we'll see. The Colts are on their schedule coming up.
Yeah.
In a few weeks as well. They get a pretty good stretch of games. I mean, you had Buffalo, the bye, Denver, Dallas, and the Colts. So it's a pretty good stretch of games coming up. But no, in the AFC, I think you expect Buffalo to be there. I think Baltimore was probably in that category before whatever the heck has happened with their nosedive, right? You kind of expected that Baltimore and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Buffalo were always going to be the 2 teams you faced. And then, if Joe Burrow's healthy, Cincinnati was always in that conversation, but that seemingly always takes care of itself, right? Early on in the year for whatever reason. So no, it's still Buffalo, the number 1 team on that board.
And then the last one for me is, Josh, this is the last season inside the stadium, right? And for the Bills, obviously, this has been home for 53 years. You have traveled the country as the Chiefs sideline reporter. Do you have a favorite moment or memory inside the stadium?
Excuse me. It's just cool that everybody goes down that tunnel and it's like so narrow and you just feel like you're like you can't look to your right. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's enemy right there. You can't look. And I mean, there's kind of a shared tunnel at Arrowhead, but
Yep.
they keep the teams at kind of different times. So you don't really, but just the kind of the compactness of that stadium is really, really cool. And you feel like the fans are right on top of you. Obviously, I get to leave earlier to go down to the field, but I know like our color analyst and one of our producers is like, man, you got to trek through that stadium to get to the post-game press conference and all the stuff that's said to them as they're traveling down the stairs. I've largely avoided that because I'm like, see ya, I'm already on the field and getting to the post-game. But I think the route from the press box down to the field is certainly an interesting one. And I'll do it. And I'll do it before the game. And I'll make sure I got my headphones turned up because I'm like, I don't want to hear anything. I'm just going to put my head down and blaze down to the field. So I think it's the intimateness of this stadium that's really cool.
I believe Chiefs are back in Buffalo next year by the schedule rotation, not even
so.
by the place finish. I think it's the
Yeah.
West that the Bills play next year,
Yeah.
and the Chiefs are here. So you'll get to see the new stadium, which, by the way,
cool.
is right across from where we're sitting right now. It's going to be really, really cool. How much talk is there at all in Kansas City of a chance to go to 4 straight Super Bowls? Because obviously that's something we hold near and dear here in Buffalo. It's hey, nobody's ever going to do it again.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You're staring right at a team that is the favorite to do it again and be the only other team to ever do it. This is a record we have here in Buffalo.
Yeah.
We don't want anybody else to have it. Is there talk of that in Kansas City amongst the fan base? I know not the team.
Well, 5 weeks ago, no. Now that suddenly they've looked like they might be the best team, and again, there's still plenty of time. We're only talking here at the end of October, so there's still plenty of time. But they're on the ascend. They got all the pieces. Knock on wood, they stay healthy. I think suddenly over the last few weeks, there's been this team might be pretty good, because I think losing to the Chargers on opening day puts question marks in people's brains. Losing to Philly in week 2 and getting that dreaded 0-2. Although I just felt like with the Chiefs, 0-2 wasn't going to be Cleveland's
Right.
0-2 or whoever, name a team's, Carolina's 0-2, whatever. They were going to be able to dig their way out of it. But I think over the last few weeks, as they've kind of started to build momentum and the look around the league of, here they go again, I think has maybe started to put that thought in people's brains. But yeah, they have to win the division first. And
well, yeah,
if they lose to Buffalo, and Denver's coming up, and if Denver gets them, that may be an uphill climb to win the division. And then you put yourself in a tougher spot in the postseason. Certainly. I mean, they're going to be scary anyway if they don't have home field advantage throughout, but there's still a lot of hill to climb yet.
What I guess I mean though is there talk of the 4 part of it? That it'll
Not
be 4
yet.
straight
No,
Super Bowls? Like,
no.
do people think about we can do something that's only been done once ever and get there 4 straight times, like that kind of thing? You know what I mean?
Not really, because I think the attempt of the three-peat
Right.
had
Yes.
at least from a fan perspective, like a hangover effect.
Yes, I totally get
they
it.
didn't get the three-peat, but they got there again. Okay, that was cool. And I don't think the thoughts ever turned to, well, nobody's been to 4 in a row, because it was about winning the 3rd one to really put yourself in a position that was maybe never going to happen again. So not yet, but as the season goes on, probably so.
Okay, so you brought it up, and I want to ask you also big picture. I could make the argument this is a bigger game for the Chiefs than the Bills for standings purposes and seedings, because yes, the Bills are chasing the Patriots and they will play them, but man, it's 2 teams ahead of the Chiefs right now in the standings.
Right.
And they've put themselves in a tough spot, and they do have Denver, who looks pretty good. And you could make an argument, because they would be out of a playoff spot. I think the loser of this game, it is going to be a tough hill to get home field advantage in any capacity throughout the playoffs, right? What is the thought about the AFC West right now, and how big of a game this is against a tough team, knowing where they are in the standings right now?
Yeah, and I think the next schedule of games is that way too, because I think if you're thinking about home field advantage or even running at a number 1 seed, I think you got to win in Buffalo. You got to beat the Colts. You got to split with Denver.
Yeah.
And you probably got to get that second Charger game. Like all those games that are in the back of the schedule, not that you say you got to win them all, but it certainly feels like you can't give up too many more to be thinking about doing that. And then, yes, it's of all the talk of, man, the Chiefs are back and they may be the best team. You look at the division standings and go, they got work to do. That the alleged most talented team all of a sudden that came up on the scene after blowing out the Raiders wasn't playoff eligible if the playoffs had started last week, So there's still some room to grow in that capacity. But no, this game's big, I think, for the Chiefs to keep some momentum going heading into the bye, obviously. And then, trying to get any chips they can in the AFC, and not, that we all know, right? Those AFC losses are more costly. Yeah. So to try to avoid one of those, it's big, and it's going to be big again next month. I think it's going to be pretty big for the Chiefs.
Josh, last one. Give me an X factor that you think could be somebody in this game that has a big moment or a big day that could impact the outcome of the game.
He's just kind of the secret tight end, but Noah Gray comes up with a big play seemingly every game. Now he's not going to be like bulk numbers necessarily, but you're still going to respect 87. You're still going to a lot of time to Kelsey, and he'll run underneath, and Gray will run over the top, or whatever, the way that they play off each other. And then I think who Salad mentioned, Brashard Smith, if he gets more of a role because Isaiah Pacheco is not playing this week, how does he factor in? But then offensively, it could be any number of guys, because I'm not privy to the game plan, but it just seems like that they'll just pick their poison. And then defensively, I probably couldn't give you a name, because it really is just kind of like by committee. Like everybody just kind of does their thing, and doesn't necessarily chase the glory. Maybe it's Trent McDuffie making a big play. Maybe it's Nick Bolton making a big play. Maybe it's Chris Jones with a key sack. I mean, defensively, they're just kind of a workman-like unit that gets stuff done. So it's hard to pick a name defensively, and I'll say Noah Gray offensively.
It's Steve Spagnuolo defensively is what it is, right? I mean, that's
probably so. Probably so. His ability, guys, too, to almost like toy with teams right now. It's just amazing. Like, he'll let you run your first 15, your first scripted plays. You play your hand, and then he goes and tweaks everything and says,
"That's amazing."
Okay, well, we just saw what you ran. Those are probably your best 15, right? So now we're just going to dial it up and try to shut it down. And his ability to adjust in game, I always kind of laughed at that, along the way, like halftime adjustments. I always kind of roll my eyes, like dudes are going back and going to the bathroom and grabbing a hot dog or what, like we do it in the media, right? I'm like, there's not a lot that gets done at halftime, but I'm not so sure if Steve Spagnuolo doesn't. I mean, he's tweaking along during the game, and his ability to kind of dial things. They'll give up stuff early, and they're traditionally much better late in the game. So you get a couple drives in, they kind of figure out what's going on, hopefully keep the scoring in check, and then they shut it down from there. And he's probably the best X factor answer defensively.
Bills have been very good defending tight ends this year, by the way. But I do remember a couple years ago in the playoffs, the Chiefs went 3 tight ends, and Noah Gray was a big part of that. And the Chiefs just bullied the Bills basically by you running 3 tight ends, and then Gray and Kelsey and everybody came up with a big catch. Hey, Josh, we kept you a little longer than I asked, and I really appreciate that. I know you got a lot of other duties going on, so thank you very much for joining us here today. And I look forward to seeing you on Sunday here at the stadium. And of course, as you always know, buddy, you come to town, you hit me up, and you got some wings. You got some wings coming. Anytime you want.
No snow, right?
No snow.
Okay, good.
It's like 60 and sunny today. It won't be Sunday, of course, but today it's really nice. So
are you a hockey fan? Are you a hockey fan?
No snow.
Are you a hockey fan? Yeah. Saturday night, Ovechkin and the Caps are in Buffalo, just so you know.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Just letting you know that.
See, I guess check the flight schedule. See what time we get there in time.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you very much. That is Josh Klingler. He is the sideline reporter for the Kansas City Chiefs. Sal Capaccio, Matt Bove here on It's Always Game Day in Buffalo at Sal Sports at Matt_Bove. All right. What you heard from Josh, does that make you feel any better or worse about the matchup from the Buffalo Bills standpoint?
It's the Chiefs and the Bills. It's the two teams that have been so unbelievable for several years, and I feel like one of them usually wins in the regular season, one of them usually wins in the postseason, and it's always the Chiefs who win in the postseason. I said before the schedule came out, I was like, maybe it's not a bad thing if you lose to the Chiefs in the regular season, and maybe it means that things will change down the road. I think the Chiefs are really, really, really dynamic right now. So yeah, if they come in and win, I will not be at all surprised. But if the Bills win, they do it every year against the Chiefs in the regular season, so we shouldn't be surprised.
All right, we're going to get to some injury notes and some things that happened at practice today. Before I forget, though, I do want to say, it's interesting when you think about the Bills in this matchup, and I feel like the Bills have kind of been built to combat the Chiefs more than any other team, because we've said how many times, I'd rather play the Chiefs than the Ravens. The Bills aren't built to beat the Ravens. They're built to beat the Chiefs. And I'm not saying, oh my God, it's all about the Chiefs and they're going to go out there and beat them. But it does feel like they match up a little better against the Chiefs than they do some of the other better teams in the AFC who can bully you, run the ball like the Ravens. The Bills have kind of structured their roster like that. This is not a heavy run team. Yes, they are great at passing the ball. The Bills also put a little more speed on the field. So I think from that aspect, maybe you can glean a little bit of optimism.
That's fair. The thing that I am more worried about with the Bills right now is the offense. Now, I'm still worried about like how the defense is going to be able to stop the Chiefs, because I don't think that you're going to be able to stop them. But I always think about when these games specifically, when it's the Bills and Chiefs, I always think about what is the number that you would have to score to feel very confident that you would give your team a chance to win. And I always think it's definitely in the 30s, right? If you score more than 30 points, I feel like you're at least giving yourself a fighting chance against this type and this caliber of an opponent. I don't feel super confident right now that the Bills can go out there and put up 30 against a really, really good Chiefs defense with the deficiencies we have seen from the Bills offense. Can they? Of course they can, because if Josh gets hot or if they have a really, really good day, that they can put up points against anybody. I wouldn't bet on it, though. So then when you talk about a Chiefs team coming in, I don't see a world where the Bills are holding them to 21 or 24 points. The way
So if I gave you 27 right now for the Bills, would you take it?
No, I don't think they're winning with
27
points.
Wow, it's a lot of points.
The defense or the offense?
I'm giving the Bills 27 points. If I say the Bills offense scores 27, I'm going to give you that right now. Do you take it?
No, I'm not. No, I think the number I would have to get to would be 31. I think
a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot, and the Chiefs defense is great. But I think about all of these games that they play. Right, going back to last year, I don't think the Chiefs had allowed 30 or more points, and then the Bills scored the 30 points on the Josh Allen scramble on the 4th and 2, and that gave them the win. And I think they won like 30-22 or 30-21 or something like that. Then they get to the playoffs, and it was 32-29. It was that number. It's like, I think if you're going to beat the Chiefs, you got to score 30 points.
I would take 27. 27's. That's a lot of points in the NFL.
The one thing I will say is, because they've played so many times, I remember there was a similar vibe a couple years ago in listening. So I was in the press box, but I was listening to Romo on the broadcast before the game. And he was like, everybody thinks this is going to be some high scoring shootout. And he's like, and it won't be. And that actually ended up happening. I think it ended up being like a 24-21 win for the Bills or something really, really close. So, I
feel this game will be lower scoring than what people do. I do. I feel this game will be lower scoring. And here's why. I think the Bills will want to run the ball, control the clock, keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. And I do feel the Bills feel like they are a little more equipped to be able to at least get 1 or 2 stops against the Chiefs. And that doesn't mean they're stop them all day, but you put that all into the recipe, and I'm thinking mid-20s type of game.
So you would take 27?
I would take 27.
I would not take 27.
And if you score 27 and lose, boy, it is full on, again, I don't know, I want to say panic mode, but, guns ablaze and arrows at the defense again. 27, people are feeling good. Hey, offense scored 27. Okay, what's up, defense?
I don't know if they feel that way. They scored 40 points last week. I know it's against the Panthers. They scored 40 points, and people are losing their minds that the offense does not look good right now. They scored 40 points. I get it's like a different level, but I mean, still, 27 is not that it's relative.
Right. It's the Bills are averaging, I think, the 4th most points in the league at 26.
Yeah. Well, maybe it'll be Gabe Davis making the play.
All right, so there you go. Great segue. Great segue. Thank you very much. Gabe Davis is back, folks. He is on the practice squad. The Bills have activated him to the practice squad from practice squad injured. So he is practicing now. They also, by the way, signed Jordan Poyer and Jordan Phillips to the 53-man roster. And that takes care of the 53. That now takes care of the practice squad, because I want to say the young man's name they just signed to the practice squad. I don't even know how to say it. It's a defensive tackle.
So Gabe Davis gets activated to the practice squad, and today was so we were recording this on Wednesday. This was his first practice, and I do think that it was notable that the window was opened. Do I anticipate that he plays on Sunday? No. But a week ago, I did not anticipate that Max Hairston was going to play on Sunday, and he ultimately did. So once again, it is a different situation. He is not on the active roster. He would need to be elevated to the active roster, and he would get 3 elevations before he had to ultimately be placed on the roster. I think Gabe Davis will be playing wide receiver for the Bills sometime in the next couple weeks. I don't know if that means it's this week, but definitely a step in the right direction. The thing I will say, though, is with the concerns at wide receiver, this team better not think that that is the answer. That can be a supplemental answer, but they better not be approaching this as like, hey, we're not adding somebody at the deadline because we think Gabe is going to be able to step in. This should be if Keon doesn't make strides, that's who goes in for Keon, and they still need somebody else.
Tommy Akingbasode, I think I'm not even know if I'm saying it right, and I apologize. Number 71 defensive tackle. Agreed 100%. This can't be the full answer, but he is a guy I think they're going to count on. I'm giving more of a chance than you are for this week. I think he might play this week. I
don't disagree. I think that it would be, I'd say, a 40% chance right now. And
who's down if he plays? Is it Shavers? Because because Shavers plays special teams. I don't think Gabe Davis would if he's up immediately. It's got to be Moore or Samuel.
I don't know. I don't know, because Samuel had big plays against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship last year, and actually against the Chiefs in the regular season. I think he had a touchdown against both times they played against the Chiefs. So saying that, I would say it's probably Elijah Moore. The one thing I will say, kind of shifting off of Gabe Davis, Jordan Poyer and Jordan Phillips have had success against the Chiefs before. I mean, Jordan Phillips was kind of the only guy who I think sacked Mahomes in the AFC Championship game last year. That's not to say you wouldn't much rather have Ed Oliver, because of course they would. But, I think that there's a role for both of those guys. And I think that, specifically Jordan Poyer, like I liked what I saw from Jordan Poyer the other day against the Panthers. I think it was just a little steadiness. It's weird because they felt like they got more steady with him in the game, but they also got more explosive with sprinkling in Hancock and Hairston.
We anything else that you need to want to get to, because we can talk trade deadline. We'll do that later in the week, because it's going to be next week, because it's going to be next Tuesday. I think by now, though, since there have been no trades, I can't imagine one happening by the end of the week.
Not one where it would result in somebody playing. Like, they could make a trade, but I don't think that it would mean that that person would be playing. If they traded for Rashid Shaheed on Thursday, it's not like that guy's coming in and getting a jersey on Sunday. So I'm just kind of going to wait and see what happens in this game. I think the Bills, I don't agree with this, but I think they want to see how they look against this caliber of opponent, and then kind of make their additions based off of that and see what they need to do and where they need to go.
Okay, we will tell everybody that Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard were full participants at practice. But I thought it was notable when Sean McDermott was specifically asked about Terrell Bernard and linebacker, and hey, when they're healthy, Milano and Bernard, will they be the guys? And even asked about Bernard specifically. He didn't say it is Terrell Bernard's job when he's healthy. He didn't say that.
Yeah.
What he said was he sees things like a coach. He sees things like we do, and like everybody. He's had really good moments like everybody, though. There's got to be some improvement. I just think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is. It feels like they're building themselves a little bit of an off-ramp to get to guys like Shaq Thompson, and not guys like Shaq Thompson. Yeah. I don't think that this would be for Dorian Williams. I think that they're trying to find a way, because they've liked what Shaq Thompson has done, to get him on the field. And I think in like obvious 3 linebacker situations, it'll be Shaq Thompson, Terrell Bernard, and Matt Milano. But I do think that there is a world where we see sometimes Shaq Thompson mixed in as one of 2 linebackers out on the field. I don't think that'll always mean, though, that it's Shaq Thompson and Matt Milano, or Shaq Thompson and Terrell Bernard. I think that they view Shaq Thompson as somebody who can play both sides, so it might be situation dependent.
Speaking of Shaq Thompson, him, Joey Bosa, and Jordan Phillips all had vet rest days. They did take part in individual drills, but not team drills. We'll have a lot more for you as the week rolls on. The Bills and the Chiefs on Sunday, 4:25 p.m. here at Highmark Stadium. For our producer, Mike Rabier, for Matt Bove, I'm Sal Capaccio. Thanks a lot for watching. Please subscribe at Sal Sports on YouTube, and, of course, wherever you pod. It's always game day in Buffalo.